Welcome everyone. We are Peak Power and we're building the distributed energy balancing system. Now, we're in the middle of a climate crisis. We're also in the middle of an energy crisis, and we're seeing since years that more renewables are coming on stream, which is a good thing. The problem is renewables provide intermittent energy. The sun doesn't always shine and wind doesn't always blow, so there is fluctuating energy getting into the grid, and that causes grid imbalances. And those grid imbalances will increase with more renewables coming on stream in the years to come. Now, if you think about the energy system, think about it as a combination of assets. You have production assets and you have consumption assets. Production as in wind, solar, you have coal, nuclear, and consumption, private consumption, and manufacturing companies that pull electricity from the grid. And the grid needs to be in balance. If that's not the case, then there's a potential blackout. And to avoid that, there are so-called balancing service providers. They give energy to the grid if it's needed, or they take energy out of the grid if it's needed. And those balancing service providers, they operate assets such as battery systems, such as gas-fired power stations or thermal power stations. Now, what we're seeing in the market today, there is different energy markets. There's one free market, a free trading market, and there's so-called balancing markets. And the balancing markets are basically an infrastructure safety net that increases system stability. Now, the status quo is that assets in the energy market and energy system are operated statically. They operate in one market at a time, and that provides low revenue potential, basically. Now, Peak Power is building a software that increases flexibility and increases the smartness of those very assets. And that leads to increased revenues and more flexibility of operating the assets. Now, what we're providing is basically insights as a first step to build that system and to flexibilize assets. Now, if you look at the balancing markets, those need energy. So the balancing service providers, they bid for energy to place them into the market. And you have a certain activation threshold, as in a price, after which energy gets activated. That means bids getting filled. But no one knows where that threshold basically sits. So what we're doing is we're providing insights to move bids that are above that threshold below, and move bids that are far beyond the threshold, move them up. And that increases revenues, that increases likelihood of that bids getting filled and energy basically getting activated. Today, there is 80% of market bids being not filled and energy basically being wasted, and that's what we're changing. Now, that's a look into our engine room. We've built a better machine learning model. And what you're seeing here basically is in each column a distribution of the energy volume and the energy prices that will be activated in that very time frame. So with this insight and this forecast that's very close to reality, we can predict the likelihood of activation and provide really valuable insights to activate and basically to use an energy asset more effectively and more efficiently. So we've started to work with PV and wind storage operators, and we're backtesting our model on the one hand, and we have the aim to operate and manage up to 50 megawatt. Now, for that specific customer, 1 megawatt has the potential, playing in that balancing market, to unlock 73,000 euros of revenue. That makes 3.5 million revenue for that very customer. At the same time, to give you a bit of a feeling how the energy market looks like, in Germany we have 200,000 megawatts of installed power. So it's a gigantic market. If we're looking into the balancing market, it stands at 17.7 billion per year. That's cost on the one side for the grid providers to balance the market, and at the same time revenues for balancing service providers that play in that market. Now, we're looking at the secondary market, which stands at roughly 3 billion, and we'll be capturing 354 million in that very market. Now, looking at the competitive landscape, we classify that into two directions. First is algorithmic trading, and the other one is asset flexibility. Now, the market still is very young and it's very fragmented, but we see very few players basically combining that and making that link between the asset operation and the insight that is needed to unlock potential and to operate assets more flexibility, and that's exactly what Peak Power plays. Now, we've talked about software so far. What we're doing is we're moving into providing infrastructure. So with that software that we're building, we can increase the utilization of assets and distribute more flexibly and more smartly energy in that very markets. And that really unlocks the potential to operate the asset itself. That's our roadmap for 2022. So we have been doing a lot of data engineering, R&D and analysis in Q1. We have closed the first pilot partner a bit ahead of time in Q2 now. And we're developing the software proof of concept within this quarter. In Q3, we're gonna connect a battery to the system, to the grid basically, that will provide first revenues trading that energy out of that battery. And further in Q4, we increase those revenue streams and take another revenue stream on board to make those step ups to the next bigger system. This is the Peak Power team. That's Luis and myself. Luis is a backend developer with a huge experience and expertise in data science and in building machine learning models. So Luis has built dozens of neural networks and classifiers, and that's precisely the skill we need and we can use for building the Peak Power product. Me on my side, I'm an industrial engineer by training, have a huge experience in the energy industry. I have spent a lot of time in supply chain management and operations, and together, basically, we've both managed cross-functional teams, have founding experience, and basically have a perfect skill combination to take up that challenge, as well as the excitement kind of to really change that industry in the longer time. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's shape the energy transition together. If you connect with our vision, we're very happy if you reach out and love to get in touch with you. Thank you very much. Well, societies around the world, and even more importantly, their governments, have acknowledged that we need more renewable energy and that we need to move away basically from fossil-based and nuclear-based power. Now, it's challenging enough to build renewable energy, but unfortunately, it's not enough just to build new renewable energy assets. So what is key basically is to transform the system and the underlying structures that connect those very assets to make the system, enable the system basically to incorporate those new capacities. Now, there's two things that are needed. Firstly, big scale storage, and the other one is data intelligence and basically smart forecasting to utilize energy assets better that are already in the system. Now, in the future, the energy system will be much more smooth, much more smart, and much more efficient, and that's needed to avert the climate crisis. And that's basically where Peak Power contributes to build this very energy system and help solve the climate crisis.
Well, it's an assembly of machine learning models that we built by collecting several streams of data from market conditions, energy market conditions, and the weather conditions, and so on. Then after an extensive analysis, we found certain patterns and certain correlations within that data in the fluctuations on the market. And with that, we train different machine learning models that using different techniques such as time series neural networks, allows us to have a good forecast on the future market conditions.
Now, we believe that energy is an integral part and the basis of modern societies and basically of our globalized world. And at the same time, we're in a climate crisis and we're in an energy crisis. And that demands instant action and fast action. So politics and the energy system, they still need to come a long way. And there is a lot being happening, but there still needs to happen a lot more. And we believe that the energy system can just be transformed with a joint effort. And we in Peak Power, Luis and myself, we have the same vision and the same values in that respect. And with that, we want to contribute to building the energy and transforming the energy system and also contributing to our whole future, basically.